Welcome back, everybody. It is May 16th, 2019, just about 10:30 p.m. Yes, late video. I apologize for not having a video out yesterday. Some personal issues to deal with. Had a very, very close friend of mine pass away this past Monday, and I don't want to get too much into it. Very close friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but I used to be very close with his family. So I just want to say to my good friend Sammy Ishak, may you rest in peace, my friend. Geez, it's just unbelievable sometimes what things like that can do to somebody, personally wise, and just open your mind and remember how important and fragile life is. Um, I don't want to get too much into the personal stuff. I'm not trying to, pull heartstrings or anything like that, but I have to say things like that for my own mind, just letting it out there and telling people that, you know, you keep your loved ones close. That's a very important thing to remember these days. But with that said, guys, let's get on to what we're here for. Now, we're checking out today's temperatures, current temperatures in the U.S. Looking fairly nice. Again, these charts are very deceiving sometimes. You can look at this and be like, wow, it's beautiful all over the U.S., but these are just temperatures, guys. We could see a nice front coming in from the west. We spoke about this briefly yesterday, or the day before, rather. Yeah, we're going to be seeing some snow in the west still, and we are halfway through the month of May. Normal for Colorado, not so much normal for anything past Colorado. The Sierra Nevada mountains, they're high enough to get snow, obviously, but it's the point of these systems that keep rolling into the west that are continuing to just flood places on the United States that we do not need any more flooding. That includes the Mississippi River and the Great Lakes, and we're going to show you that in many different ways. Now, we've been talking about a lot of different topics lately on this channel, and we're going to do that here too. So first, what I want you to look at is this yellow highlighted area. We have a lot of very significant storms going on at the moment along the northern part of the U.S., the Great Lakes, and then again right across the Mississippi River. And specifically, we're talking about the states as of right now, Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. And we could see that strictly by looking at these lightning charts. And you could just see, these are live charts, guys. This is happening as you are looking at them. This is the lightning going on right now on our continent of the U.S. You could see some back here close to, let's see, Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska. We got some significant lightning over here, but which will play a part later on in this video. But right now, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, they're getting slammed. In fact, if we go over to our Tornado HQ website, which is up here somewhere, there we go. They've been having warnings throughout the day. Now, let's get down to at least today. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 warnings put out there between Illinois and Indiana. Now, that will change. There's going to be more of these, that's for sure, because looking at these charts and the let's see here, the COD chart that we use, we can get a good look here of exactly how strong some of these storms are. Now, I hit play here. You can see this thing dipped right out of Canada, right over Minnesota, and now is hitting some of that warmer area, right connected to the Great Lakes. And like I said, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Chicago was in there with a possible tornado warning. That's, you don't see that every day. And this thing's coming right down towards the Kentucky, Tennessee area. And it's just a little bit of a different layout than we've been used to seeing. We've been seeing a lot of weather come down from Texas through Louisiana and then up this way. And now the jet stream has changed. So now we're getting stuff from Canada flowing downward. So, that's weather for you guys. And then at the end of this, you see Iowa get blown up once again. So this is going to be a topic we're going to be talking about over the next couple days. tornado-wise, hail-wise, flooding-wise. But the main issue is that this stuff is all crossing over the Mississippi River and clipping the Great Lakes, which are already at peak level. So this whole theory about May and June and the continuance of this flooding is showing. It's there, it's happening, and we need to really be prepared for this, especially for the 40 million people that live around and rely on these lakes for life support, basically fresh water. We're talking. So, and then just look at the west side of the U.S., just completely covered in moisture. California is getting hit with storms. The Sierra Nevada mountains are getting slammed. It's just one after another after another. So, like I said, we've been talking about a lot of topics here, and I want to try to make some connections here. Some of you may agree with, some of you may not agree with. Again, here are our temperatures. It is warm there, so those storms are making sense. They are strong storms, obviously producing tornadoes or the possibility of tornadoes. Here is that energy strip we look for. It's not in red. If you look down here, it says severe thunderstorm possible. It's no longer possible. They are happening. I'm getting comments and emails left and right talking about how severe the weather is down by Chicago and underneath the Great Lakes here, and now moving down into Ohio. And it looks like it's going to dip down, like we talked about, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then possibly the Carolinas, and then maybe a little bit of a push out into the Atlantic. Let's hope that happens sooner than later, but it just seems like there has been no break lately when it comes to the middle of the country all the way east. So once again, here's our lightning chart. You could just see it with your own eyes. These are live strikes going on. We're getting thousands of these per hour, guys. This is a lot of lightning, which, yeah, you don't want to be outside for that type of stuff. So if we go to our county by county chart, believe it or not, we do have winter storm warnings or winter advisories up by the Dakotas and Minnesota. That's closer to Canada. But that storm came right over that, and the second it hit the warm weather, boom. Those things exploded into very significant storms, and you could see, once again, right here, how it happened. We'll back up. You could see that thing dips right down over Minnesota. Now we're in Iowa situation. Then we get to the Great Lakes. And then right at the end of this frame here, frame 200, currently, right now, look at some of these storms, guys. These are huge. These are the size of some states. So there's no surprise why we're seeing these warnings and the tornado warnings. I have not heard much of touchdowns yet, but when you see things like this, it doesn't matter whether you have touchdown tornadoes or not. You need to just be aware that the amount of rain and lightning, just as dangerous of a situation. So with that said, I want to talk about a few other things here as well. One of them being our 5-day rain chart. Now, we've looked at these in the past. We dissect these pretty often. This is what to expect between basically tomorrow and May 22nd. So this is a 5-day chart of precipitation. Now, look. You can see Texas all the way through the middle of the country, through Iowa and Minnesota. Nothing but rain, guys, over the next 5 days. And you can see, and if you match it to the charts here, we're talking 4, 5, possibly 7 inches of rain to fall within the next 4 to 5 days in this area. And again, right along the Mississippi River and then ending in the Great Lakes, which are already flooding. And that has been the main situation going on, and the scare going on is how long we're going to be dealing with this type of flooding. And we've been reading article after article about how they see no end in sight through June. So we got a lot coming our way as far as flood goes and these severe storms. And now we're approaching hurricane season. It's officially the Pacific hurricane season. I have some information on that as well. We have seen this chart. Now, this is what I want to get into. We were speaking about the sun and the solar flares and the CMEs and things of that nature. Now, this was a picture I took yesterday of the sun right after that explosion happened, which was Earth-facing, which was about it was going to take about 3 days to get to us, and now the timing is getting pretty close. We had a solar flare followed by a CME. And now you're going to see that in the next picture here. This is a chart they use to measure that. This dot here is Earth. Right here is the sun. And if this were an animated chart, which it is, I don't have it animated at the moment, you could see this wave right here. This is the CME and the solar flare at the same time. It's like a double whammy. And unfortunately, when these things came off the sun, it was Earth facing. So again, whichever part of the Earth has rotated into this wave as it hits is usually the area that gets struck. Now, struck, what I mean by that is could be weather phenomenon. It could be northern lights type things. We associate these things with northern lights. We usually get a beautiful shot towards the North Pole and things like that when these things happen. But there's also a correlation with earthquakes and weather, especially in my opinion. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of evidence, and I'm sure you have too, that when these things hit us, we tend to get earthquakes. We tend to get more severe weather. Even hurricanes have seemed to strengthen in the past as CMEs or solar flares, and that those solar particles hit Earth and hit our atmosphere. They certainly affect things. So with that said, I'll show you another picture here. This is today alone, guys. We had a pretty significant earthquake in Nicaragua today. I had a sub down in the comment section saying he wants to send me some pictures of the possible damage they had. Look at all these earthquakes that happen within that time period of that solar flare hitting or the CME hitting. You can see it with your own eyes, guys. These things do, in fact, affect the Earth. This 5.8 here, very significant. And then we had another 5.8 down in the South Pacific about 2 hours later. So you're kind of getting the idea of how the Earth spins into this stuff. The Nicaragua quake was first, and then as the Earth was spinning, we got that quake in the middle of the ocean, which I will show you on the earthquake website. You can see it right here. This was a 5.8 Central East Pacific. This was at 22:52 UTC. Now, if you click on the Nicaragua one, that was 1622. So a few hours after this quake struck, we then had this quake. So again, that leads you to believe, or it gives you some evidence that as the Earth is spinning, these solar particles are hitting the Earth and causing different earthquakes. And yes, the weakest points, these are the fault lines. That's why you're not seeing quakes out here or anything like that. You see quakes near fault lines more than not. I mean, sometimes you do get them in random places, but it's those tectonic plates moving together. It's different types of pressures. Even volcanoes are basically earthquakes in another form. I mean, they're releasing pressure that is underneath the Earth. So with that said, I want to take a look at the tropical intensity index. We talk about this a lot with the atmospheric conditions being favorable or highly favorable, unfavorable for cyclone formation. Now, we are officially in day one of the Pacific hurricane season, and you can see down by right here where the earthquake was by Nicaragua, we have this all covered in red. Now you can see how it's cut off here. This is the cutoff line between the northern and southern hemisphere. So they're not going to show you what's down in this area. This is for the northern hemisphere, but we have a lot of energy built up in this area here, and we're starting to see it bleed into the South Caribbean. So this is what happens, guys, during the season. We start to see the hurricanes pop up on this side in the Pacific, and then slowly we start seeing them happening in the Atlantic. More times than none, they begin down in this area. We get some off the west coast of Africa, which you can't see in this chart. But I want to take you to Ventus Sky, and I want to show you what they are showing us. Now, I want you to take a look at the date. This is May 25th. This is way into the future. So this is what they're showing for May 25th. This is not a guarantee, so I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying there will be a hurricane on May 25th, on the 24th, or the 23rd. I'm not saying there's going to be a hurricane at all. All I'm saying is that we are on Ventus Sky right now, and it is showing by May 25th, which is a significant time away, a lot of time for change, that we could be seeing our first Category 1 or even higher hurricane. Now, I'm 100 meters off the ground here, so let's be fair and change it to 10 meters where most people live, and you can still see this is very much within a Category 1 strength hurricane. Now, if I back up to the 16th, which is current time, we don't see much at all. So I'm going to go day by day, and I just want to show you how the changes happen. So we're in the 17th now. Here is the 18th. Now the 19th, you can start seeing a little bit of counterclockwise spin out to the west of these areas. Here is the 20th. We get a little bit of energy coming out of the Mangua area, Central America. Now we're getting into the 21st, the 22nd, 23rd, and we still see not much. We see a little rotation here, but then watch what happens between the 24th and the 25th. It's just unbelievable. Here's the 24th. You still not much to look at. 25. Oh my God, there it is. Within 1 day's time between the 24th and the 25th, we go from seeing absolutely nothing to basically a Category 1 hurricane. Now, whether this hurricane is part of that situation we were talking about where it may possibly move into the Gulf, and we had that little bit of we had the intensity chart showing that we could have something brewing in South Florida. That was stemming from a storm that would have crossed this land and then regain energy and then move up into this area, which is still possible. But again, we are so far out from this date, I can't give you any information whatsoever whether that's going to happen or not. All I know is that this is the first time I've seen rotation like this on Ventus sky since last year. And again, we are 10 meters off the ground. It's about 30 feet up. So there's no trickery going on here. I mean, you could change this to 100, take a snapshot of that, and you point at this 90 miles an hour. You crop this photo out, and you can have people thinking there's a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane about to hit land. So you got to be very careful with the videos you're watching and what you're looking at. That's why I like to show you all the stats on the side. We're going to change this back to 10 meters off the ground, which is where most people live. And you can still see this is clearly reaching a Category 1 status if it does stay that way. So now, as far as the correlation between the sun and weather and earthquakes, I mean, it's your guess is as good as mine, guys. What I'm seeing, there's not many coincidences in life. At least in my life, there hasn't been. So when you see things like this article, 5.8 magnitude earthquake hits Nicaragua, according to the USGS. Now, I don't want to show many pictures. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but here we go. Reuters. An earthquake with a magnitude of 5.8 struck Nicaragua about 50 miles, 80 kilometers southwest of Rivas on Tuesday. So that was, what, 2 days ago. That was right when that the solar flare was getting to the U.S. Now, remember, this solar flare has already come and passed the U.S. We can go back to this chart. This was on the 16th. Earlier today, this wave is probably about out in this area now, but that does not mean that it won't still affect the U.S. Now, these things hit, and sometimes we get immediate reactions, which could have been one of those two quakes. And now that it's passed out, still those particles are coming towards the Earth. And yes, there are many channels out there that are a lot better at explaining this type of stuff than I am. I am still learning about it. Soaking up every bit of knowledge I can so I can get on here and be as accurate as possible without scaring people. The last thing I'm trying to do is get people worked up over something they don't need to be worked up over. But the data is here showing that we are getting hit or have been hit by a pretty significant CME and a solar flare at the same time. It's a double whammy. So between the energy we see here down in the Pacific Ocean and the things we're seeing on Ventus sky and these rare storms that are still happening by Australia, we have another invest actually popping up, 95P right here, just above what is it, New Caledonia. We got New Zealand here. We got Fiji. Fiji's known for its big earthquakes. This is basically an out of season storm right here. And then even more out of season would be Ann. Ann has now been downgraded to a very minor storm. I don't even think it did much as far as affecting Australia. But we've been having some rare storms form in the Indian Ocean, and now we're starting to move into the Pacific. And then eventually, like I said, what I just showed you, we're going to start seeing these things spin off Central America and either come out this way up towards, excuse me, wow, up towards the southern part of U.S. and Mexico, the Baja region. We're going to see these things start shooting out towards Hawaii, or we're going to see them come out and fizzle out here because we do have the water up here is much colder than the water is down here. You got to remember the northern and southern hemisphere line is right about this area. That's why you see these flows going up. You see this flow coming down, and we almost have a line right here. That basically tells you where that line is. So if a storm was to be, let's say, produced down here, chances are it would be spinning clockwise. But this storm seems to be coming out of this area. Counterclockwise spin, but again, these things are known to jump over these thin pieces of land in Central America and then reform in the Gulf. So we got to keep a close eye on that. So once again, I am not saying whatsoever that there will be a hurricane on May 25th. I'm showing you what the data is showing me, and that's how this channel runs. We show you the data, and then we follow up on it on a daily basis to see if that's actually what happens. But yeah, this is one of the first I've seen so far, and for it to jump up from the 24th from absolutely nothing one day later showing this, that's a little odd. So definitely worth showing you guys. And then, of course, the earthquakes that we've had that I believe, in my mind, were due to these things coming off the sun, the solar flares, the CMEs, you name it. This is a very big sunspot right here, and chances are within the next 10 days, this thing is going to go around the sun. If it doesn't calm itself down, it's going to come up right around again. It's still going to be right in the dead center of the sun if it lives through that, and we might have to deal with this thing again. And you remember, this thing had a very large explosion right in this area, and then we had that big one that I showed you the other day. Let's look at it one more time. I mean, you got it. This is the only way to remember stuff, guys, is by repeat and watching. This is how I learned. This was that first explosion, and then I showed you the second one right here in the second video I made on this topic. So, guys, we got a lot to look out for. So, I'm hoping that I'm getting the quality of these videos better. I'm trying my best to get you guys detailed information and get you the warnings as soon as possible. So again, I know this is a 20-minute video. It's hard to stay focused when there's so much going on and so much information being thrown at you. I just wanted to play catch up from yesterday. So once again, guys, I appreciate every single one of you that watch these videos and comment and the positive feedback. It's the reason I do this. It's the reason Caroline and I spend our free time doing this stuff for you guys, and we enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. This is not a job to us. This is an absolute hobby that we love, and we love interacting with you guys and getting feedback, especially if you guys have videos or pictures and stuff like that. And finally, before I let you go for real this time, if you did not get my message about the notification bell, there's been a big issue with that lately. If you have clicked that bell, the notification bell, I highly recommend you unclick it, refresh the page, and then click it again. Restart that bell. Because I believe there's some stuff going on with YouTube, whether it's an error or whatever, but not a lot of our subs are getting our notifications lately, and that's very important to the channel. That's how we survive here. So if you don't mind doing that, take the time, just click the bell, and make sure you get those two little quotation marks around the bell. That means you are notified, and you will be notified of each of our videos. Okay, we've been past 20 minutes. That's enough of that. All right, guys, if I can get something else out to you tonight, I will. And if not, then tomorrow is another day. Thank you so much. I will be in touch about this situation and very much so about the U.S. situation with this flooding in the Mississippi River and the potential quote unquote catastrophe flooding that could be happening with the Great Lakes. Now, this is no joke, guys. I'm not making this up. This is all over the news that they're talking about the Great Lakes. And you can even read down in the comment sections that a lot of people that live around these Great Lakes are already experiencing flooding and having to be displaced from their homes, especially those that live on the borders of these lakes. So, I mean, just look at this chart. It's totally going crazy. So, all right, guys, before I lose my voice, thank you so much. I will talk to you all very soon. Have a great night. Thank you so much. Good night.